shall we start with, I think we're going to start with a moment of silence, but let me frame that from just from a poem that's at the beginning of the Golden Civilization book. And then we'll talk about what we're doing here and what the linkage is between Golden Civilization and the global inaugural. If you want a golden civilization, you must start with what is golden inside of you. If you want a civilization that will thrive for 1,000 years, you must start with what is timeless inside you. If you want a civilization that is universal, reaching into all realms, you must start with profound respect for all sentient being. So I think with that frame, I'm going to ask Kathy Lubar. By the way, there are kind of 5 of us hosting. Kathy's one, Julian Powe is another, Mary Zimmerman is another, and Natalie is going to be running the show behind the scenes and in various ways. So Kathy, would you begin us with a minute or two of reflection? You're on mute. There we go.
Thank you. So just coming into our chairs, into our seat, taking our seat, and starting by just feeling the contact points of your body with the chair. And it's helpful also to close your eyes so that you can have an inner focus. And just noticing as you come into your body, whether the contact points feel soft or hard, warm or cool. And perhaps starting to notice the breath in the body, maybe in the front of the torso, maybe in the back. And coming down to the soles of your feet, which if you can have them on the floor, and feeling the contact of the soles of the feet on the floor. And imagining roots growing out of the soles of your feet, breaking right through your home or office, right through the surface of the earth, and growing down through the layers of earth, perhaps all the way to the core. And imagining those roots, all of our roots, meeting somewhere equidistant between the UK and South Africa, different parts of the US, and whatever other countries are present. Imagining those roots all meeting and connecting us as community. And then coming back up through the soles of the feet and feeling the whole body. And let's just take 3 breaths and following just the natural rhythm of your breath and your body, moment by moment. And just welcoming whatever is. Just being patient and accepting with whatever feelings are there, whatever thoughts arise and pass away. And bringing kindness to whatever you're feeling or hearing. You might even want to put your hand on your heart area, just bringing kindness to yourself. And thinking of bringing that patience and kindness and listening that you're doing to yourself, to everyone present, to bring that openness to everyone's ideas and thoughts as we create a vision together. And then I'll just ring a bell. And feel free to open your eyes and stretch and Take a deep breath, and anything that you need just to be even more present in your body. Great. Wonderful to have everybody here and see everybody. George, all yours.
Thank you, Kathy. So I'm going to give a brief kind of overview of some of you have never been part of the Golden Civilization conversation. Some of you may not know what the People's Inaugural is. So I'm going to give a brief overview, then pass it back to Kathy for a little bit more on the People's Inaugural. And then we're going to come and we're going to do the Golden Civilization conversation. It's a structured conversation that works by empowering a vision of something that we all might come together around. And we're going to do that in relatively short order. Probably half an hour is all we're going to take for that piece of it. And then we're going to come back together around what the People's Inaugural is asking of people all over the country. And this is People's Inaugural is US based. Our work is global. So we're very interested in kind of expanding this into a global orientation. But they have done some inspiring work around making a pledge and asking everyone to make a pledge to change, to commit to change, to bring about an extraordinary world, bring it about through love and mindfulness. And so we're going to be aiming toward that. And Julian Powe is going to pick up the ball at that point. I'm going to ask Mary Zimmerman to give us a sense of what the obstacles are to the visionary work that we're going to do. This work, the Golden Civilization work, started from a movement in the financial world called life planning. And what that movement kind of discovered and originated was that when you worked with a person and helped them devise a vision of who they really wanted to be. It might be someone they're thinking of being in retirement or 10 years from now or only in the most ideal world. But if you, in fact, inspired them to create that vision, helped them create it together, and then offered your support, that what we found was that within a year, people were actualizing those visions rather than waiting 10, 15, 20 years to make them happen. And they were living with so much more vitality and with so many more virtues, with kindness, with generosity of spirit, with vigor and excitement and equanimity. That it was really stunning. And so what happened was I came from that movement toward the seeing what was happening in the financial services industry and the banking crisis, and then looking at this terrible crisis we've had in democracy, the crisis obviously with the planet and all. And I thought, gosh, if we can do that with individual people, shouldn't we be able to do that as a society? To come together as a group, as we are here, come together as a group and create a vision of something that is so inspiring that we can't not make it happen. And that's really that's the principle of the Golden Civilization conversations that have now been done hundreds of times all over the world. And we're going to take that model and see what we can come up with here, give you a flavor of it here, leading to something like what we call a torch statement, which is the visionary statement, but also what the global inaugural, or what the People's Inaugural calls a pledge, and see if we can come up with something that we all go, yeah, we could go with that, and put that together. So that's going to be one of the functions. Another function that we're aiming at is how do we connect with other groups? I see people here from all over the world and from all over the country. Each of us has connection. We have connections in our families, but we also have connections in our associations, in our organizations, in our workplace. What if all of us had this kind of inspiring vision and went, and part of the vision is having a very short time frame. So rather than going, oh yeah, we can have a golden civilization in a couple hundred years. Well, our notion is let's do it within a generation. And of course, many people feel that that's all we've got when you look at the climate crisis. And we look at other crises, you can think that too. But what happens by shortening the time frame is people get energized, anxious sometimes, but a mix of anxiety and excitement. And then they're motivated to actually make something happen. So let me see if there's anything else I want to say before I pass it on to Kathy. As I said, one of the things we're interested in doing is taking the People's Inaugural that is growing by leaps and bounds here in America and expanding it globally and having a sense that all of us together want to create a great world. How can we do that? And we have a wonderful forum in the design of the Golden Civilization Conversations that you'll see in the middle portion of our engagement together. We have a wonderful way of structuring a conversation and engagement that can be inspiring to people all over the world. And from, as I said, from our kitchen tables to our visionary communities. So let me see if there's anything else I want to say. No, I think that's it. I think I'm going to pass it on to Kathy to talk a little bit more about the People's Inaugural. I've given you a flavor of what the Golden Civilization kind of looks like and some flavor of its community. Kathy, would you like to share something of the People's Inaugural? I should say that I took the pledge. There's a pledge, and I'm always kind of resistant to pledge kinds of things, so I changed it a little bit. Instead of saying I pledge or I swear, it's a people's oath, I think is what they call it. It comes out of the inaugural oath in America that presidents make at the beginning of their 4-year term of office. But you can see it on I posted it on social media, and I just changed it so that it came more from me. But we're going to be looking at what they've done and then what we might do. I mean, all of us as a group, what we might feel comfortable with. Kathy.
Sure. Thanks, George. So I don't know how many of you saw the inaugural poet at the inauguration, Amanda Gorman, but very inspiring to so many of us. And there were 2 lines that really struck me as being what we're talking about here. So where can we find light in this never-ending shade? And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. So it's felt like never-ending shade, I think, for so many of us with the pandemic and with the politics going on in certainly the US and other countries. And yet, I just love that. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. And so I think this is really about coming more into the light and creating that dawn. And that was what really inspired me. Jack Cornfield, who's one of my meditation teachers, he sent us the information about the People's Inauguration. And I was just very inspired by what I read about it. So I want to read a little bit. The thing that struck me most was what they say are the pillars of agreements that kind of support the concept of this whole movement. And the first is that we are in transition. We're in an era of transition. And with the climate crisis, the stakes are existential. I just read an article today that said 2/3 of the world now believe that that climate change is an emergency. And that was based on a survey of 1.2 million people, 70 countries. And so I think it seems kind of obvious, but I think that growing realization that we don't have a lot of time and that we who are alive right now will decide whether humanity itself survives. And then the second pillar is each of us has a role. Each of us has a role to play in this era of transition. Each of us has a sphere of influence, kind of what George was saying before. Each of us has something to offer to the communities to which we belong, our voice, time, talent, art, innovation, platform, resources, and more. And Grace was mentioning Valerie Kaur, who started this whole thing, who's an activist who comes from the Sikh tradition, and I think also a very creative person. But these videos that they've been showing over the last 10 days have been so inspiring because it's such a diverse group of thought leaders and artists and thinkers and professors. And so you can see that they're coming from all these different communities, and you might want to check out some of those videos. And then the third pillar is let's do it with love. And that one really struck me that there's been so much divisiveness in our country, and I've felt so much anger and rage and resentment inside myself that I was like, yeah, we can't do it that way. We're going to have to do it with love. So we will only succeed if we choose to show up with love. Imagine seating pockets of people across the world who make love a conscious practice, where people are grieving, raging, listening, and reimagining together. And so I think that's what we're doing here, is really reimagining the future together that we want to create in a generation. And the other thing that I think struck George and me as so similar, as in their writings and as they speak, they're saying we need to do this in a generation. And when George first came up with that, I kind of was like, really, a generation? This is what are you talking about? But I think we realize we don't have, it really is this existential crisis, and we can do it. And what they're saying is the research shows if you get 3.5% of the population, then you can create this. You can create radical change within a generation. So that's what I think this idea here is, that if we start this and then get other people to come and we just keep growing this movement across the world, 3.5% might be just doable. So I think that's it for me, George.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. Beautiful. Just, I think one of the things I'd like to say is that we have signed up, not all of them are here, obviously, but the people who signed up for the Zoom call came from 9 different countries. Came from as far away as New Zealand, Croatia, from really all over the world, India. So we expect people will come to the portions that we will share with them, which are the portions where Kathy or me or Julian or all of us together in a vow, if we do something like an oath or anything, we'll share those portions with them, not your individual statements. But we're serious about this being a global endeavor. I want to share the structure that we do. And before Natalie puts it up, she's going to share the screen. I'm just going to describe it for you. The Golden Civilization Conversation is one of the simplest things to do. You can do it around your kitchen table with your kids and your family. I've done it with a number of you in various settings, really all over the world, and it's been a delight every time we do it. And what it is we take a third of the time and we call out, what is it that would make a golden civilization? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And then we move from that chart, which is called vision, or golden civilization itself, to a chart that says obstacles. And there we look at, what are the obstacles to it? Because those are the things, we dive into our cell phones every day, and we're constantly filled with what the obstacles are in the world to a great vision. So we want to look at them. We want to honor them, that they're there, they're real. And then we go, well, all right, we're inspired by the vision. We want to do it in a generation. How do we do it? And the third chart is a mix of what we call action steps and commitments. And so the end of this, so it's this movement of the golden civilization conversation is of an arc. It's up high to the vision, and then it's down low to the challenges, and then it rises up again into actions and commitments. It's a beautiful structure. It's like going through the hero's journey in a way. And so we're going to come out today with some kind of linkage. Julian's going to help us craft it toward the people's inaugural. But Natalie, I wonder if you can share the screen that can show people. So these are the three charts that we use, just so you see them. Vision, and then obstacles. It's that simple. You can do it on one piece of paper around your kitchen table. And then actions, you've got global, national, local, group, or individual. And commitments are what we individually commit to. Usually there's something that we've just come up with that are new. And so we move on to commitments at the end. So I'd like to start with vision. And Natalie is going to be typing into that PowerPoint that you saw all the words that you share. So I'm going to frame it for you, and my suggestion is to share a phrase or a word or multiple words as to what would be a golden civilization for you. So let me frame this a little bit more. So you might imagine that we've arrived, okay? And at first you might have to go out a few hundred years or a few thousand years and just imagine that we've made it. You know, we dodged the bullet of the early 21st century and we've made it. We're in a golden civilization. And so my question is, just living into that experience, what is it like? You know, what's there? Nothing holding us back. It's there. It's already there. What are the words that would describe it for you? What are the qualities that are there? What are the structures that are there? It's there. What does it look like? So that's where we begin. Is what is not with compromise. We begin with vision. It's like to get to the moon, we had to imagine getting to the moon, not every step along the way. So here we are. We're moving toward the golden civilization. So I'm wondering, Mary, I wonder if you would, if people could chat what the words are, what the phrases are. If you've got any questions, then unmute yourself and ask me if you're not clear. But otherwise, start to chat. What would that golden civilization look like? And now, so let me describe what we do here. So I've taken these conversations. I'm not the only one who's done them. Julian and Mary have done their own. They've been done, as I said, hundreds of times, and I participated in probably half of them, certainly a third of them. And but what's really interesting, there are overlaps and differences, but by and large, it's the same vision. One of the things that comes up when we spend a while is democracy is here in it. We see the same thing. We see kindness and respect, forgiveness, sharing, not the poetry necessarily of Home for the Snow Leopard, but the same passion for the earth and creatures on it. So the question that we ask in life planning, when we have created a vision that feels inspiring, and we all agree to it, and as I say, it's the same all over the world. People want this vision of connectedness, of cooperation, of sharing, of less income inequality. And so the question we ask at the end of a life planning engagement, when we come to this point of having created the vision, is if as a consequence of our work together, and I'm going to do this in terms of us and all the other groups, if as a consequence of our coming together around this vision in alliance with all the other groups all over the world, that are coming together now at the same time with the same quality of vision. If we were able to deliver this as a consequence of our coming together within a single generation, how would that be? And feel free to say something or to type in how it would be. How would that be if we were to actually make this happen within a generation, coming together with groups of like mind all over the world with a passion to make it happen? How would that be? How else? How would it be? 20 years we've done this. It's done. It's accomplished. How would it be? A great relief is often comes up as being a response. Sometimes I've gotten, boy, that would be so exciting, and then immediately, oh, and anxiety provoking. How are we going to do it in such short order? So one of the things that we learned in the life planning movement was we actually wanted an intermingling of anxiety and excitement. They're very closely related as emotions in the body, the way they're felt in the body. And that intermingling of them means that you're empowered to actually make a difference, to make change happen. So that's what we look for. So the question that we ask in life planning when we have a really inspiring vision, and that is, what if we all come together around this vision all over the world, or you yourself around your vision? What could possibly get in the way? What could possibly get in the way? And in life planning, the most common response is nothing. Once the vision has been really strongly created, nothing's getting in my way. I'm going for it now. Now that I know I can do it, nothing can get in the way. And it's harder for us to say that because we're on our phones and looking at all these things that the news keeps telling us are getting in the way. So it's worthwhile just to keep reality present, to acknowledge that, to put those things down, to name them. And so that's what we're going to do for the next 5 minutes or so. So let me talk about that and bridge from this piece. Continue to type things in if you like, and we will include them. But bridging from this to the solutions, to what we call action steps and commitments, and then to this interweaving of the work we're doing with the People's Inaugural. What happens in these conversations is that we move to action and commitment. And so we're moving out of this overwhelm, as Miranda has called it, and this distrust that begins to eat away at ourselves. We begin to not trust ourselves. And so we eat away, and we get, by being in community, seeing what the vision is, and moving toward action steps and then commitments, we look at how do we solve it? How do we make it happen? And then we come back. We come back a few weeks later. We're going to probably reorganize this 2 months from now. We're going to come back and see if we can bring in more groups and more people from other places. And we come back to revision and to look at what are the commitments we've made and how have we done. So in terms of that, I want to bridge over to the work that Julian's going to do. Julian created an amazing, what we call torch statement. It's a statement of visionary purpose. And he did it for one of the first Golden Civilization conversations that he and I held together in the outskirts of London a couple of years ago. And you can see it on the Golden Civilization site. If there's a .com, goldencivilization.com, and you can see it also on the Golden Civilization Facebook page, group Facebook page. It's beautifully written. And I asked him to see if he can bridge from something like a torch that might be more complex towards something as simple as the the oath of office, the oath that the people's inaugural is saying, look, if all of us took the responsibility that we're asking the president to take and we expect the president to take, and each of us made a similar oath that we were committing ourselves to make this world, this new world, come true, and in relatively short order, that it would make a huge, just this huge difference. And you can feel that, the energy of that happening. And their hope is for millions of people. What was it, 11 million people, Kathy? Anyway, millions of people all over the country and all over the world. So I just wanted to share that bridge to Julian, but also because this is about our commitments and our action steps, I'm going to say I'm committing to giving as many of these golden civilization conversations over the next period of time till we meet again, as come my way, and as I have the ability, the physical ability to deliver them. And I'm committing to do something that many of you here are familiar with, but not all of you, which is to push forward a very simple piece of legislative action that would change overnight corporations, governments, and nonprofits all over the world. And all that it does is that asks every institution to commit to put the interests of people, of the planet, and of democracy ahead of their own interests. If every institution in the world did that, I think that most of the world's problems would be solved. So that's one of the things out there that I'm committing to, along with the Golden Civilization conversations. So would love to hear what your commitments are, but a major purpose of this is to bring us together around a common kind of statement that we might all say together, even in a call and response, that I'm going to ask Julian to structure and to lead.
Well, thanks so much, George. As ever, you conjure up so many memories for me, because it was 2.5 years ago we developed that torch with some of my fellow travelers on this call, Alison and Tim and you, George. And as a consequence, a group of us have done all sorts of things, and particularly focused now on how can we put wisdom to great use in reimagining the work we do in the workplace. I haven't said much. I've put some comments in the thing, but I now want to say a little bit if I could, but not at great length. And it's to segue from all we've done into, as George is saying, the possibility of a collective oath. In Golden Civilization terms, we talk about a torch in terms of encapsulating a vision. Let's hazard a collective oath on the basis of all that we have already shared with each other. And Kathy, you took us at the beginning to Andrea Gorman and to some of her poetry. And she stood there in, I think it was yellow, wasn't it? A bright yellow top on Capitol Hill on a bright dawn, one of your words that you conjured up. And for so many of us, I guess, the Capitol in January, in the various events that occurred on those steps, are sort of emblematic for us about light and dark, peril and possibility, where we are at the beginning of this generation of reimagining. So what I wondered was whether we could each imagine ourselves on a dawn as a group being on Capitol Hill, just us. But there might be 500,000 people, or there might be a few flags, or there might be nothing, but just us on a dawn. And what might we want to say in terms of an oath? And I want to, in a second, suggest one on the basis of all we've said. Pause for a little, just to gauge reaction in the chat or in conversation. And then have a go at it together. And once we've done that, I'd like to suggest we come to think about our own areas of urgent action, our own arenas of urgent action, if we have time and energy for that, and if we want to choose a moment to do that together. Before I hand back to George in terms of what we all might want to choose to do next together. And the thing about Zoom is that when someone like me says that, he can just keep going. So I'm just going to keep going. And the themes that I heard, or I chose to hear when listening, particularly around vision, were the following. A sense of fullness, plenitude, our planet, the snow leopard, abundance of food, end of war, a sense of fullness of the planet. A sense of, for everyone, opportunity for all, education for all, with liberty, truth, and sense of what is right and true and free at its core. With a spirit of our work on that and living in it, of Pono. I haven't pronounced it right, I'm sure. But that we said so much about that, didn't we? Of respect, cooperation, toleration, acceptance, compassion, dialogue. And we talked too, didn't we, about joy, fullness, joy, plenitude, and about kindness, serenity, ease, mindfulness. And underneath it, in the vitality of our voices, I heard an edge too. Did we all hear an edge? An edge of determination, perhaps fear, but determination. Tim, your words, humanity is prepared to lay itself down. We need to be prepared to lay ourselves down. So that's, I might have chosen to hear those themes, but that's what I heard. And on the back of that, I'd like to hazard an oath, and I'd like to offer it. We commit that with urgency, in our spheres of influence and with my fellow human beings, we will faithfully execute our role in healing and reimagining our world. And will, to the best of our ability, preserve, protect, and defend full opportunity for all, liberty, joy, and toleration for ourselves and for all around me. And that we will do so by laying ourselves down with vitality, with mindfulness, and with love.
I felt very moved doing this as a group. I love the fact that we've now brought together from a number of different countries across the world. I'd love to bring many more countries in to this experience and to this understanding. I also love, I mean, the Golden Civilization conversations are designed in Julian's part of London. What he managed to do with Alison and Tim and a number of others was create a group that actually looked at wisdom in institutional life. And they're continuing to do that. I think there's a meeting tonight of an offshoot of that community. And the Golden Civilization conversations were designed to help local communities do that. But what I'm seeing here, and what part of our thought of this group was, how wonderful to come together with our own domains of purpose, of interest, of passion, of compassion, of change making, and to know that that there is a community that holds kind of the larger vision. because I know Kathy dives into her Women Fired Up, and it's an incredible group of women and inspiring work that they've done, but it's a narrow focus. And how wonderful to know that that group can join together with a group that's working on climate change, or that's working explicitly on solving the issues of racism in America, or on solving issues of inequality, or of money in politics, or any number of things that might be there. And what I see here is the possibility that all of our different passions and commitments for change, each of us took that oath in a way, in a different way, going into our own life. That what a wonderful way to be able to come back together and bring other people into a place where we say, yes, we're all here together. And I want to support you. I love having your support for me and for what I'm doing, for us to be able to share more. So this becomes a community that we might do that. And I think that's our aim for perhaps a couple of months from now, come back together. And I think Kathy's addition of asking everyone to reach out to five friends to see if you could bring 5 more people in. I mean, Zoom is wonderful in terms of breakouts, being able to create a breakout and having different communities gather together in different ways. So those are my thoughts. I don't know. I want to also leave room for Kathy and Mary and Natalie and anybody else. If anybody else has any thoughts here about moving forward or about what we've accomplished here. For me, my heart is full and soft, warm, and encouraged with light, coming out of a time that's really very troublesome, very much so here in America, but I know it's troubled all of you in other cultures as well. Anybody else like to share anything? Just been an incredible pleasure to gather people from all over America and all over the world here in this endeavor. Please join us again in a couple of months. We'll send out more word about this early next week, if not later today, to give you the structure of the Golden Civilization frame. The website, agoldencivilization.com, has more of our work. You can also go to the People's Inaugural website, and we shared that in the flyer as well in the initial outreach. I love you all. Wonderful to have this all about love. Miss you. Great to see you.